a stealth plane that we can't even see. Tell me, how's it gonna help us defend our country?
Identify yourself and tell us a little something about your background.
My name is Darko Trifunovic and I am legal expert for international criminal law. I am the youngest legal expert in the Republika Srpska, and exactly here I doing same job in Yugoslavia because of Nato bombing. I specialize international criminal law in Arusha in Tanzania. There is a center of international criminal court for not for former Yugoslavia but for Rwanda, and I think that on that way I can help my people now in this moment.
Have you been pursuing questions of international law here, given the NATO aggression against Yugoslavia and such? That must have kept you busy, I would imagine.
I didn't understand very well your question.
Could you tell us something? Could you tell a U.S. audience how the U.S. has violated international law and the international rights of the Yugoslav nation?
Well, this is a very perfect strategy, of course. We call this strategy now in this academic circle what I'm talking about. This is a strategy of make a war, be a boss, exactly as old Roman sentence said, divide et impera. And Americans, they cannot make direct...
For Americans who know no Latin anymore, means what?
Means divide and be a boss. Become a boss, exactly. And there is a way how to occupy one country. The new way of occupation of one sovereign country is to make humanitarian catastrophe and then to send the troop, then elect the marionette government, and then this country is yours. It's exactly same what's happened in former Yugoslavia, from Bosnia to now to Serbia, and we don't know who is the next. And for American audience, I can say only that Americans are not different of other people, that they also commit the crimes. There is a crimes in Yugoslavia. All nationalities commit the crimes, include of course Croats, Muslims and Serbs too. There was a civil war, first in Croatia, first Slovenia, then Croatia, then Bosnia, and now Kosovo. And but the Americans also took the part actually in this bloody war. And you have now evidence of bombing of hospitals, schools, and I don't know what really Americans think now. I hope that they are still free people and that they have brain to think about what they did.
When you say Americans,
do you want to take a break and answer your phone?
Molly?
Yeah, we're rolling.
When you said you hope Americans will realize this, do you make a distinction between the U.S. leaders who serve certain interests in their country and in other countries, and maybe the ordinary Americans?
Of course, there is always difference between people of America or people everywhere and government. Because it's not common, but it's very often that government didn't represent interest or opinion of all people, of course. And we know that government is composed by people which are there only to satisfy their small interests of one small party, but not all nation, of course. And the reason why you are here actually proved that Americans are not in favor of bombing of hospitals. Americans is not war criminals, of course. I cannot generalize this.
Right. Have you ever? This is just a question I'm personally interested in. I don't know. It may be totally out of your realm. Have you had occasion to go to Bosnia since it's become, quote, independent or a Western satellite now, a principality? And if you have, could you tell me if the average individual, ordinary people in Bosnia or Croatia even, they feel their lives are now better now that they're apart from Yugoslavia, or do they feel it's the same, or do they feel things are actually worse?
I am as I told you before, I am legal expert also of Republika Srpska, and I am very often not only in Republika Srpska but also in Muslims in Croatian part, because I doing their investigation, of course. People are not satisfied, of course, and
Why do you mean, of course? That's an interesting.
Because they have a house, they have a normal life before war, and they are not, I can say this, they are not stupid. They know who committed the war, who was behind the war, who actually do everything in favor to have a war there. And if you now make interview with some Muslims in Sarajevo or Serbs in Sarajevo and Croats, everybody of them, they will say, yes, Americans do this. They don't want to say. I asked one Muslim guy, why you think the Americans or maybe German, but everybody say Americans is behind. I ask why. They cannot explain, but they feel this. Now life in Bosnia is a little bit normal because whenever you have a situation where there is no war, it's people try to living normal, but they remember which life they had actually, and they remember actually how war started. Because the Americans directly exported the weapons to Croatia, export weapons to the Bosnian. There is a videotapes, there is a whole bunch of proofs for this. I have exactly
the American ambassador to Yugoslavia, who was directly responsible for the beginning of the war, because the three people in Bosnia, they had agreement to share Bosnia and not to start the war. And Warren Zimmerman, he influenced Alija Izetbegović to tear apart the Lisbon Papers.
Is the standard of living worse than it was before the war? Is the standard of living worse than it was before the war?
Yes, of course. Now people must start from beginning. They must reconstruct their house. Then there is no family. A lot of people die during the war, and it's quite different life.
Do the people in Croatia and these three mini republics of Bosnia-Herzegovina, do they observe Kosovo with a kind of deja vu? Does this feed their suspicions about outside intervention in any way? I mean, do they have an opinion about Kosovo?
I really don't know, but Kosovo is a good example of what's actually happened in their house. I cannot say that they could see this, but it is more than obviously what's happened, and we call this like a 3 or 4 stage how to take one country, how to occupy one country. And I spoke with my friend. He's American. He's from United Nations. It doesn't matter his name. It's not important now. But there is one project of United Nations and project of government of Japan. They want to identify American foreign policy. Because today it's Balkan, tomorrow it's some Asian or African country. And as I told you before, there is a several stage. First stage is to identify national or ethnic or other groups. Then another step is diplomacy and particularly newspapers, TV station. And this stage is very important because on that stage it's very important how to divide people within one country, how to see a difference between ethnic or national group or whatever. And then there is the beginning of conflict, and then on end occupation.
International law. What do you say to the cynic who says it all seems to be a matter of power now? The power is so naked, is so one-sided, that international law is just an illusion, or can, within some areas, can international law have some kind of impact? Can it in some way expose or thwart? Or tell me why I should even take it seriously if I should.
Well, it's very difficult to answer on your question, because international law, and in fact all law, it's in our brain only. And if we accept a rule of law, that means that we will see our better future. We will have some, maybe a law, it's something like a lot of rules and etc. etc. But it's not like that. Law is here to help people how to live together without conflict and similar things. International law, I mean, there is 2 or 3 aspects, of course, of international law, particularly of international criminal law. First aspect is that international criminal, it is, in fact, matter of power. We cannot say, even in my country, law it's in the hand of powerful side. That is same in international level, but all international community want to have, in fact, international criminal law or international law that that everybody of us as citizens of world should respect the law.
Well, thank you. You both have been wonderful, Madame.
Well, ask him what happened with his lawsuit.
What's happened with your lawsuit? What
Well, I gave a charge against Clinton to the United Nations, and the United Nations noticed, in fact, my intentions to sue Mr. Bill Clinton. And next step is to submit a criminal charge to the ICTY, International Criminal Court for the former Yugoslavia, because all offenses were committed on territory of former Yugoslavia. And we need, in fact, support not only from people from Yugoslavia, but from America, from every side of the world, and from media too. Because International Criminal Court for former Yugoslavia, it's political body. That's a fact, and all accusation in front of this court is on base of newspapers, etc., etc. And that means that we should take same tools.
Have there been other suits along those lines? Have the other people filed suits against Clinton in the same court?
Well, that's very interesting questions. Everybody talking now, we're going to sue not Mr. Clinton but American administration. What's happened there? But nobody didn't submit official paper, and that's something which I am very concerned about it, because I am lawyers, and in all our world, so-called lawyers' world, we know that the paper is paper, and that somebody must do the first act, and there is no. I hope that Mr. Ramsey Clark understood, and you from American Action Center, everything, and that you are actually in good way. Let's call this good way. You want to first inform American citizens, and then I hope to submit charge to the right place.
In the last month, I heard that there were papers actually filed. But you're on top of the situation. If there were papers, you'd know about it.
Yes, the several lawyers and several societies submit the charge, but something which we really need it's not only papers like act. It's evidence. The big problem it's evidence, and I hope that not only you but other people from other country will come and to record this evidence, and Yugoslav government do something same. But I'm very skeptical about Yugoslav government.
Has the court tipped its hand at all in its public pronouncements that it wouldn't take seriously complaints against the United States or NATO? Have they said things publicly to give you a clue where they stand?
World Court?
The World Court and the Hague Court, both.
Well, there is a two court of court. One is International Court of Justice, and second is International Criminal Court for former Yugoslavia. Last one is a typical political body, of course, and Mr. Louise Arbour, she already refused to take NATO as a case, and Mr. Bill Clinton as her case, and I really don't know. I know why she refused this, and but we need pressure of international media to do this. And our first court, it's International Court of Justice. It's also, I can say, it's also a big game. And if we're talking about justice, we know that doesn't exist, unfortunately.